So it's lovely to be back. I probably shouldn't miss it as much as I do, really. This waste of time speaking about nothing. But there hasn't been a Thursday where I hadn't thought, it's Thursday. The beauty of speaking about this is because it's a waste of time, because it's pointless, because it doesn't mean anything, because it's not beneficial. If this had a purpose and meaning and was beneficial and was aimed at you getting something, it would just be it would just be another, or just something else for you to try, something else for you to have a go at. You tried everything else, and so it can sound like giving up. It can sound like resigning, like resignation, or maybe surrender. But of course, that's just another thing for me to do. So there's no suggestion of you doing that. There's no suggestion that you do anything, not even nothing. Everything is simply as it is. Everything is as it is, and everything as it is equally nothing as it is. You could say as it isn't. So we're speaking about just the end of the one who could find what they were looking for. That's all. And in the end of the one who doesn't find what they were looking for, here is all there is. It's not a finding. And it can seem like a losing, but even that's saying too much. There is nothing to lose. This can't be lost. Or found. You could call it the ultimate anticlimax. If you've been seeking enlightenment or liberation or ego death or whatever else you've read that may have occurred to some other human beings, and you've gone, oh, I fancy some of that because my life, I'm sick and tired of myself, so it sounds good. Well, you can't get more of an anticlimax than there being no absence of self, because there never was a self to be absent. So there's nothing there's nothing more to recognize. There's nothing more to be seen, to be uncovered, to be discovered, to be realized, to be recognized, to be attained. It's a joke. You might not find it funny. It is funny though. Whether you find it funny or not, it's fucking hilarious. Because you know you've hung around with some hardcore seekers. You might even have called yourself one. And if it just, the only word I've got, it's not realized, it's not recognized, it's not apprehended, it's not, I don't know, whatever word suggests that there's a seeing of this. There is nothing more to see. I mean, there is nothing more disappointing than that, when you've been waiting and waiting to see, to be clear, to have clarity. I mean, what a joke that clarity is in unknowing, in not knowing. That's the only clarity I'm speaking about. I know fuck all. I used to pretend I knew a lot. And what has been realized is that all of that, all knowledge, all understanding, all comprehension is utterly empty. Now it remains. It's not that I no longer know what I knew before. It's not that I don't understand the workings of things, whatever I did know before. That's still there, but, or still here, you could say, but it just means nothing. Empty. And it's that emptiness, this silence, that is the peace that passes all understanding. There it is. What a phrase. I'm not a great fan of the Bible, but that is it in a nutshell. The peace is, this is not comprehensible, understandable, graspable, gettable. That's it. That's what wants to be communicated. Forget it. There is no peace in trying to get this. There's endless work. And it can feel dreadful to be out of a job, you know, to be out of work when your job was to find out. You know, that's my life's work. My life's work is to know the truth, reality, the absolute. Not petty truths like those other poor bastards who go to work every day and think they're doing something meaningful. Oh no, I'm not buying that. I'm going for the real McCoy. I'm going, you know, like the great ones before me. There's the joke. This is the death of all great ones. And that's tragic. So it is a tragic comedy, because whoever you have held most dear, whoever you have held as special, in a very real sense, they die. The specialness, or the potential, the possibility of specialness dies. And of course, what I longed for most was my own specialness. That's right at the heart of self, the heart of being me. That I am not worthy, but I may become worthy, holy, special, spiritual, pure, whatever other fantasy you might have. And it is incredibly beautiful how the death of specialness is love. All the love is in that. There is no love in admiration, in looking up to. There really are no ones to look down to or to look up to. This is the great leveler. Lays everything flat. That's not what me wants, ever. I love a world full of individual human beings with a self, some of whom are great and some of whom are arseholes, some of whom I can look down to and some of them I can look up to. So we are speaking about the death, the end of specialness. And when everyone, all human beings, and everything else, a human being is no more than a blade of grass or a leaf on a tree, then there is a love that it's not, I don't mean love as in a feeling. It's an indescribable equality. Whoever told us that ordinariness, absolute ordinariness of everything is love? We've made love special. It's only for those who deserve it. The worthy ones. And the other wonder is that as me, there was a limited supply of love. I was careful who I gave it to or what I gave it to. And there was no need to do that at all. By the way, I'm not talking about liking. When I say love, I'm not talking about liking. Oh, likes and dislikes. That I'm talking about the love of an arsehole. Could be no other. Everything just as it is. And the impossibility of it being any other way. It is too obvious that this could not be other than it is, simply because it is as it is already. And so life is without requirements. And again, that might sound like, oh, so there'll be no desire, no wants. No, that's all. That's just storytelling. Desires are just as they are. Dislike is just as it is. Well, if you'd like to ask a question, then either just put your hand up on by using the icon, or just unmute yourself and ask a question, or share something.
Brendan just said in chat that he just came on to see how you were. Can't stay. Lovely to see you.
Bloody cheek.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, Brandon.
Tej, he's got his hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tej. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm so glad you're back.
Oh, thanks.
Thursday. I always looked forward to the Thursdays.
That's nice.
It's, when you mentioned this, it's just struck me. It's so amazing. This message is a killer of all religions.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, you look at any religion in the world and they talk about what is good, what is bad, and you shouldn't have desires. You talk about Buddhism, Hindu, Christian, Islam, all of them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just so amazing that, and it just strikes a chord in your heart that this is the truth. It's just, we were misled by all this stuff happening, which is still happening, by the way, everywhere. But it's such a leveler. It's such a killer.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I'm awestruck.
Oh, thanks, Tej. If you look hard enough in every religion, this is there, but it's under a lot of layers of righteousness, of good and evil and right and wrong, and rules, of course. This is the this doesn't acknowledge any rules.
And also the specialness that you talked about. I mean, how many people we have idolized or hated. It's just, I mean, I'm awestruck by this. It just struck me. It's just amazing.
Oh, thanks, Tej. It is amazing. It's too simple. I mean, if I say this it's all right for me to say it here. If I say it down the pub, or to my buddies who I play golf with, if I was to tell them just what I've said in the last 20 minutes, they wouldn't be quite as accepting of it, to say.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's for sure.
Because of course, self does two things. It loves itself and rewards itself because it says I'm better than him or her. And the other thing is that it berates itself because I'm not as good as her or him.
Oh yeah.
I'm beneath. And so self is always in conflict. The whole essence of self is conflicted because I'm always in comparison with better and worse. And I always put myself somewhere on a hierarchy in comparison with others. And really what we're speaking of is the death of others. When there is no self-consciousness, when there's no consciousness of me as a separate self, there is no consciousness of others as different from me. Now, the differences remain, but the differences are irrelevant, immaterial, superficial, you could say. They just don't matter. That doesn't mean, and again, it might sound, oh, so you just are accepting of everyone. No, it's nothing to do with acceptance at all. This kills the need for acceptance. So everything, everyone, every human being can neither be rejected or accepted because they just simply are as they are.
Yeah, there's that feeling of, I don't know, I had a glimpse the other day. It's just, I guess, I don't know, it was like, I guess the word to use is emptiness, but I don't know if that's even the right word. It's just like, it's just, It's just like a show by the same thing.
Yeah. Well, the good news, Judge, is there are no right words. I mean, I
Yeah.
use empty. I use empty a lot because that was the word that is the word that I use for that which can't be described, which is no thing, which is nothing. But I have no idea what I'm speaking about when I say that. I mean, it's just a word that it doesn't mean. It's the best I've got.
Yeah.
But I must admit, very different to when I was a seeker. When I was very particular about the words, there were words that, I thought they were closer to the truth. You know, there was a right way to speak about this, and there was a wrong way to speak about this. I have to say that's complete nonsense.
Mm.
Because when none of the words can be accurate, can be correct, again, there's absolute freedom to speak.
Mm. Yeah.
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 Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Andreas has his hand up.
Andreas.
Hi, Tim. Good to see you again.
Yeah, and you.
I have a question about when I listen to this message. There's always a kind of mixture between a big resonance and also a big frustration. And the thing is, could you say anything about the difference between sobriety and ecstasy? Because the message seems to me something like to get really sober of all the expectations I had about life, about happiness, about getting happy, and the message is destroying everything, and it's getting. You also say the ordinary is the special, the quite just sitting here looking at the screen. It's so simple and ordinary, and it seems for me there's nothing to get in my. I have a big longing for ecstasy now, and I'm looking for good sex, for good meals, and for good friends and parties, and this is nothing there. And something in me sees that also in good sex and parties and friends, there remains a kind of emptiness.
Yeah.
And so I would like to hear a little bit about this difference between sobriety and ecstasy.
Well, it's funny that you say sobriety. I have gone off the booze a little bit. I must admit, I liked getting drunk. It makes perfect sense why self likes getting drunk, because, you know, it dumbs me down a bit. You know, all my anxiety is reduced. Fears of making a fool of myself are reduced. Of course, there's a hefty price to pay the following day when me comes back with a vengeance and goes, "Oh, you made a complete fool of yourself there. You've humiliated yourself. Look what you've done. You're a disgrace." So, but I don't see this as sobriety or ecstasy. Ecstasy is free to appear, as is what you're calling sobriety, I guess. Are you asking me is there a difference? Are you talking about the difference between before and after in the story?
Yes, and also because it seems, I mean, everybody is looking for kind of ecstasy. Everybody wants to be happy, wants to get fulfilled, wants to get enlightened, and in an ecstatic state of being. But this message tells me always, forget it. It's not, you don't get anything here. No, it's nothing to get there. And so
I find you are I'm not saying you're mishearing, but that's not the message at all. No, this is not saying forget ecstasy. It's not saying forget getting drunk or being sober. It's just saying there is everything as it happens, as it is happening. So it's just saying it's the end of saying sober is better than ecstasy or ecstasy is better than sober. They are different still. So experientially, because it can sound, and you may have heard speakers say, we're talking about the end of experience.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of agree and disagree. It's very hard to talk about this, but there isn't, without an experiencer, of course, there is still the experiencing. So experiencing ecstasy or experiencing boredom or experiencing sobriety. I'm not sure what you mean by sobriety. It just means.
I mean, by sobriety, I mean to live an ordinary life with
Okay.
no
Well, I would
experience.
say in ordinary, that is exactly what we're speaking about. We are speaking about ordinary life. And in ordinary life, when you least expect it, when you're not expecting it, ecstasy appears. A double rainbow just appears in front of you. And you go, fuck, wow, you've not done it. So, of course, that's very obvious that had nothing to do with me. Most selves can see that. That's not, the ecstasy is caused by something else. But that is just the same as, I don't know, sexual ecstasy or drug-induced ecstasy or ecstasy of a beautiful child playing or whatever else floats your boat. Whatever does it. The wonder is that it's all unexpected. The illusion is that, okay, I can choose to be sober or I can choose to be ecstatic and I can pursue one or the other. It's a lie. It's nonsense. They just happen.
So would you say when you are not looking for it, when you are not searching for it, it can appear? It's
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say no, it's nothing to do with whether there is already no one looking for anything, even if there is the whole illusion that there is someone looking for it. Life just happens regardless. Life is completely regardless of what you've called yourself or what every human being, virtually everyone you know, calls themselves. Life is in spite of, regardless of, because there already are no selves. There already is no one managing. So it's just that they're redundant. All those ideas just become, I don't know, they become almost like sweet. It makes me think of Tony Parsons, because when somebody would go, yeah, but for me it's like this, and he would go, oh, how sweet, in a very condescending manner. But I kind of get that, because self's illusion of controlling their destiny, their future, their experiences, that they've cultivated them, they've made them happen. So the whole illusion is that you can make anything happen. There's no one making anything happening, or there is just what's happening. So there isn't a certain way, Andreas. I'm not talking about life being more of something and less of something else. I'm just saying life is as it is, which is completely different to everything, every other spiritual path, every other religious teaching, that by your efforts, you can make your life a certain way. I'm not speaking about happiness. I'm saying you have no say over emotion already. You're just pretending that you're doing that. The pretense is that you're managing your emotions, that you're cultivating happiness and you're controlling the sadness. So ecstasy isn't better than sober, and sober isn't better than ecstasy.
I mean, the me can get lost in both. In I want to get ecstasy and I want to be the most sober monk in a monastery, and it's always a temptation for me to. But what you are telling, it seems something totally different. It's yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, as a seeker, when you said, you were looking for ecstasy, I thought, well, that was familiar, because that's what I thought, I'd read so many stories of bliss. Bliss was the word. It rhymed with Cliss, for God's sake. So I thought, well, surely it must be for me. So I thought bliss, because ecstasy, it's like an orgasm. That's going to be short-lived. Whereas bliss, ecstasy of orgasm, yeah, it's over and done, and then you're just like, you got to wait a while for the next one. Whereas I had the idea that a constant state of bliss, that's a seller, isn't it? It's not by chance that that's still sold to millions every day. And there's a lot of buyers for that.
Yeah, thank you for the answer.
And it can still sound like something for sale here. It can still sound like that, and or something is being taught, and there's something to get. There's something on offer, and I went for years to teachers and who told me that there was nothing on offer, but I couldn't hear that. As self, it's pretty much impossible to hear that really as it's being said, because there's a lot that I want, whether it's sobriety, ecstasy, bliss, whatever other fantasy you've got of some state. And it's just very simple that states, emotional states, psychological states, physical states, just come and go. Regardless of your best efforts, to maintain the ones that you like and to rid yourself of the ones you don't like. That's the suffering. The suffering is in all of that effort, which is futile. Futility sounds dreadful, and yet it's just another word for peace, really, and rest. And it may sound like, well, it's nihilistic, so there's no point in doing anything. Well, things are done regardless of whether you believe there's a point or not. Everything just happens anyway. You don't have to worry about that. But self says, I do need to worry about that because I'm the one in charge. I'm the one who's making it happen. So of course there's massive anxiety in that.
Anita has a hand up.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Can you say something more about, looks like I lost the question already. Oh yeah, about nothing matters.
Really nothing matters. When I say nothing matters, what I mean is that it doesn't matter whether it matters or not. Whereas to me, it really matters, whether it matters or not. So if someone, so there's something really important to me, so let's say saving the planet. You know, I'm a green warrior, and those beliefs and those values that I hold most dear, they are incredibly important to me. They're central to my whole sense of being me. So that matters a great deal, and therefore it matters a great deal whether they matter to you as well. And
I was also a warrior, but I'm not. I'm not more anymore.
no, unfortunately,
that-
this will kill, because what we're talking about is the death of the one it matters to. That's really what I mean by it. So when there is no sense of it matters to me, it may still matter. So it may still be that you still, you know, value what other human beings are doing in order to, but the weight of it, the imperative, the importance of it, it may die completely, or it may just subside and it just matters. It does matter, but not like it used to. It's almost like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I do still value it. So for example, I do love animals, and so things like the RSPCA in the UK and you know, dog rescue and all of that does matter still, but it doesn't matter anywhere near like it did. I couldn't campaign for it. There's no energy to try and persuade anyone else that they should too. That's what I really mean by it doesn't really matter. Because the importance of beliefs and values are because they're mine. When there are just beliefs or values, they really don't matter, even though they somehow still do. They're not demanding anymore. They're not demanding of attention. They're not demanding of action. But if you ask me about my beliefs and values, they're pretty much exactly the same as they would have been 10, 20 years ago. They haven't changed dramatically at all. But do they really matter? No, because they don't mean anything to me. But they are still there. They don't go anywhere. It's not like values change, because they were never mine. They were just, but it was that they belonged to me. That gave them all their weight and significance and importance. And so that's what I mean by it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Anita. Somebody asked me about my political views the other day. I had to really think about it, because I don't think about politics at all anymore. But when I thought about it, I thought, yeah, they're exactly the same as they always were. They just don't mean shit. Whereas to me, of course, my views, well, listen to them. They're important. They're mine. That's me, isn't it? That's me.
Dave has his hand up.
Hello, mate. Hi, Dave. Nice to see you. You need to unmute, Dave. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Well, I've got COVID, but I'm okay.
Oh, bless you. Yeah. What, have you had it for a while?
About 4 days.
Right.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm double jabbed, so I'm okay. Get by.
So what is it like? Like a bad cold?
Yeah, like a bad cold, bad headaches.
Yeah.
You go a bit woozy, but
right.
But I wouldn't miss you. I was determined to see you today. So.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
That's great.
And thanks for your lovely message about Mum.
no, she was a lovely. Well, she was. I'm glad I met her. That was great.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave.
Thanks.
Oh, it's nice to see you. Well, I hope you get well. Yeah, get well.
Yeah. Well, in the spring, I'll come down to Maney. See you.
Yeah, lovely.
Okay. Yeah,
Cheers.
just carry on talking. I'm here to listen. Whatever you want to say, I'm listening.
Cheers, Dave.
I've got nothing to say. Anything I say, you've heard it all before anyway. So.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you.
Roberta has a hand up.
Roberta.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Roberta.
It's good to see you. Hi. It's good to be here. I am. I'm here after having been at a weekend with Tony Parsons, and some of my core beliefs felt very challenged.
Yeah.
And at the mention of politics, I wondered if you could address.
I'm struggling to hear you, Roberta, because you're breaking up.
What happened for me was I felt like it challenges. I feel like with some understanding or glimpse. Oh, really? Oh, is that any better?
No.
Is that any better?
No, I'm really struggling to pick out what you're saying.
Can you hear me, Tim?
I can hear you. I can hear.
Oh, I hope I haven't been muted.
But it's.
Is that any better?
No, it's really difficult.
Darren, can you hear me?
There's a really big delay, Roberta, so we can't really
Okay.
get a grip of what you're saying.
It's not the
Well,
volume.
how about now?
It's very difficult.
Oh, all right. I am breaking up, which concerns me. I'll write it in chat.
Yeah, do that. Do that.
I'll put it in chat.
Good thinking.
I'll put it in.
Yeah,
Okay.
do that. Write it in the chat, Roberta, and then I'll say something about it.
Don't wait for me. Maybe you're not.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. No, thanks, Roberta. I'm not. No, it's fine. Just write it in the chat, and then I'll comment on it. Well, I could do a quick plug as there's a pause. At the first weekend in February, I'm hoping to do a weekend. I can't remember the date now, but it's the first weekend in February to do an online weekend if you're interested. And so I'll be advertising that within the next week or so, week or two. Similar, if you came, I did one in the summer, last summer, and so in a similar kind of format to that, 3 meetings on Saturday and 3 meetings on Sunday. So you're all really welcome to come to that.
5th and 6th of February.
5th and 6th of February, yeah.
That's great.
Laura has a hand up.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Laura.
It's a very silly question. Why did you name your homepage this deafening silence, like this silence? Has there been something loud for you that has been like muted?
Oh, thanks. Good question. The deafening silence is the silence can be deafening, like the emptiness can be like a blinding light. So the darkness can be blinding and the silence can be deafening. It's deliberately paradoxical because it doesn't make any sense. So how could you hear silence? And yet it can be all that's heard, all the sounds. And how could you see emptiness? Well, there's nothing to see, but there it is, everything empty, all the sounds silent.
Beautiful.
That's my attempt to answer that question. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, don't think that I'm something special and can hear silence. Of course, no, I can't. Don't think that I can see emptiness. No, I can't. It can, I only have the word obvious for it can just be that the thingness of things, the knowledge of things can be seen to be of, it can be really obvious that that knowledge is empty. So the things are not what they appear to be, but the thingness remains. There's still the thingness, but the thingness is nothing, as well as the thing. So things are nothing, sounds are silent. Really, I mean, that's why non-duality is called non-duality, because all opposites fall into each other and opposites are not two. So the opposites still remain, comparison still remains, difference still remains, and the difference and the sameness are not two. It's not that everything is seen as the same, it's that the difference and the sameness are not two. It doesn't make any sense. And because it is the not being able to make sense of it that is the freedom and the peace and the rest and the love and everything else you've longed for and you've heard about. It is in the not getting it. Whereas for self always believes that, well, there must be something for me to get. And there isn't. The truth is that you already don't know what you know. So the illusion is the great illusion of self is knowing. And the core illusion is I know myself. And from that core illusion of I know myself, then all other knowledge of other than me becomes real. And by real, I mean only real, not real and unreal, which it really is, which just means you don't know what's real, not knowing. You don't know the difference. So the knowing remains, but it's empty knowing. You still know the things. You still know the words for things. You still know explanations for how things work. Well, you know, the few things that you do know how they work, that you learn at school and from your parents. But the insignificance of that and the irrelevance of it, other than trying to fix things, you know, it's handy to know how a toaster works if you want to fix your toaster. I don't mean that. But no longer admire knowledge, you know. I mean, I have a first degree. I long to get a master's and a PhD, and you know, to be Dr. Cliss, to be somebody, to be a great academic, to be admired for my knowledge. You know, maybe I'd come up with something that no one else has thought of. How wonderful. Be remembered like Einstein. We're speaking of the death of dreams. Hopes and dreams.
So the death of the illusion.
Yeah, well, just, I mean, the death of hope. And wonderfully paradoxically, the death of hope is not hopeless at all. It's the opposite. It's just, it's freedom from hope. It turns out that the things that we were taught as children from a very early age, we were conditioned to hope and dream heavily, very heavily by other selves who had never realized their dream, particularly parents, but all adults really, who wanted you to fulfill their dreams and hopes for them. And maybe you've done that with children already, you know, instilled some of your hopes and dreams into them that they might fulfill it because you still have them and they're. A lot of the sadness of human beings is the time's running out and I've not completed myself. And by that is, you know, I've not fulfilled my hopes and dreams. Well, this is the absolute annihilation of that. There is nothing to fulfill. This is already completely fulfilled. So the death of the future is obviously the death of hopes and dreams. And that sounds dreadfully nihilistic and hopeless, but the absence of hope is the absence of hopeless. Hopeless has no meaning whatsoever without hope. Of course it doesn't. Hopeless only exists with hope. So life is no longer hopeful nor hopeless.
Roberta sent her message.
Yeah.
So she says in chat, she says, I had core beliefs challenged, re-taboo issues, re-racism, and I was alarmed. But there isn't a question there, but...
All right. Well, this message does challenge all core beliefs, of course. Having said that, I mean, you can make non-duality a core belief. I can't emphasize enough, I don't believe in non-duality, even though you might think I do. It's not, it's again, it's regardless of belief. You don't need any faith for this to be as it is, do you? Or belief. You don't need to believe in this. But I do know plenty of people who do believe in this. And they're the ones who will argue all fucking day about their concepts of non-duality. There's nothing quite as boring. So it's interesting. I mean, if belief in non-duality dies, then maybe you could speak about non-duality. But you won't want to argue that your view of non-duality is correct. I mean, that's for me, isn't it? That might be obvious. There's nothing worse than I have avoided pretty much now. I avoid every platform for discussion of non-duality. There's nothing worse, really. Like it's going to get you somewhere. So that's quite a relief as well. There's nothing to defend, because if this isn't a belief, so it needs no defending at all. So that's lovely. Whereas, of course, a faith and a belief needs constantly reinforcing and defense against attack.
I was just thinking, David hasn't asked a question, and then you put your hand up, like immediately.
That's your fault then, Darren, because you,
yeah,
through telepathy.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Hello, nice to see you again, Tim.
And you, I was going to say before I left that I was slightly disappointed that you hadn't spoken to me. I was. I thought, oh shit, something's seriously wrong with the universe.
No, I tell you what the problem might be, actually.
What?
Not a problem. This isn't what I was going to say. I was just going to revisit something that I said a wee while ago. This kind of signal moment. There's a speaker whose name will remain anonymous.
Yeah.
She just said, you troll around from speaker to speaker, and you think, he's got it. Oh, no, that's not quite right. And oh, no, she's so close, but it's not quite, And eventually you just say, fuck them all. And that seemed to me like a really signal kind of moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good. Yeah.
Fuck them all.
Yeah.
And I think
it's perfect.
Going back just briefly, I've reread, this is like dealing in pure heroin, actually. I'm a bit nervous about talking about it. But there's a book about U.G. Krishnamurti. Sometimes I think non-duality, whatever it is kind of Krishnamurti light, because that guy was so out there. And I recommend it, but it comes with a severe health warning, actually.
Yeah.
And it's called, it's not his dialogues, which are fantastic. The mystique of enlightenment, it's brilliant. It's a book written by a guy who looked after him in his final years until he died.
All right.
And it's utterly devastating. It's called Goner. And
you're a goner.
It's a head fuck. I mean, it really is. And I'm kind of sitting here, I'm gone. I'm not, it's just, talk about fuck them all. This doesn't even come close. So, don't blame me. If you read it, I would recommend it. Yeah. But it's so far out there. I mean, it makes Tony Parsons look like the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Right. Fuck them all, including you, G.
Anyway, that's my. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, and you, David. I'm glad you spoke because I was going to have to say something. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be back speaking to you. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, hopefully see some of you again. If you'd like to make a donation, then by all means do. You just go to the website, Tim Cliss This, which is also, Laura, called This Deafening Silence. Yeah, thanks very much for coming. It is always a pleasure. I know it might seem bizarre, but it is. There is great pleasure in sharing this shit. Great pleasure.
Thank you, Tim.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Tim.
you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye, Tim.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah, you're welcome.